what I'd like to know from any of you is I've actually got all 6 pre-poured, because part of the enjoyment, I call it whiskey foreplay, which is getting to know the whiskies through the nose, the olfactory experience. So the more glasses you've got in your house, flat, bedsit, wherever you are, if you can fill them up with any of these whiskies, the joy of being able to compare and contrast is tremendous. So it's getting you into what I call the first part of whiskey appreciation: the beginning, the middle, and the end. The nose, the mouthfeel, and the finish. So without further ado, I always think it's good to be able to talk when you've got a dram in your hand. What I'm going to suggest is that the 2 whiskies on the back of your tasting mat are Cardhu and Singleton, both from Speyside, both from northeast Scotland, but 2 totally different whiskies. So if you do have them both open, I'd love for you to be able to pick them up, the Cardhu in your left hand and the Singleton in your right, and just compare and contrast for your nose. So whereas, and this is again my opinion, the Cardhu is kind of quite light and zesty and citrusy, whereas the Singleton is a bit more dark chocolate, mocha, coffee. It's a more intense kind of aroma. And what I normally do to gauge those aromas, I'll pick up, as I'm going to do now, if you can, join me, fantastic. Pick up either the Lagavulin or the Talisker, and then just nose them, because your nose has been awakened, your olfactory passage is open. For example, if you nose the Talisker right now, if it was blind, you'd think it was a rum. And then go back to that honeycomb, honey flapjacks of Cardhu, and then the much more richer dark fruits of the Singleton, and then you go to the Talisker, and guess what? You could be fooled into thinking you've gone to another spirit. So I'm going to talk and taste the first one. And I always think the first whiskey at a tasting, it's like being in lane 8 on an athletics pitch. You know, you're fast away, you're out of the blocks really quick, you're in the lead, but very quickly you're overtaken by all the others. And I guarantee that by the time we get to number 6, with the full flavored, pungent, powerful, peaty flavors of Talisker and Laga-vul-in, Cardhu will seem like you've left him back on his starting block. So I'd love you to be able to save a drop of the Cardhu for later. My second and last thing before we get into tasting it is that, excuse me, these are all at cask strength. And the many times that I've tasted these, the only one that me personally drink neat is the Singleton of Dufftown 17-year-old. I think the spirit burn does not affect my palate. And let's be fair, we've all got different palates. All of you out there, you've all got a different palate. So do try neat, and then you can make your own mind up whether you want to try it with a glass of water. So I want you to give me a thumbs up. Are you ready to taste the last Soho Whisky Club tasting of the year? Are you ready? Give me a thumbs up for Cardhu.
Yeah.
Give me a yeah.
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 Yeah. That's what we want to hear.
Now, also, please, guys, comments in the box. Give us as many toasting notes as you can of these as we go along. Colin has got...
Yeah, you can tell George has been drinking wine. He said, could you write your toasting notes in the glass?
I noticed that.
I never drink. I taste.
So I can tell you all, I'm not going to tell you what they are, but if you can see in my hand, I have a plethora, a gargantuan feast of rare whiskies in my hands. And whoever writes the best tasting note and puts it into the chat column, George is going to make that decision. And I will ask George then to pull out one of these whiskies for your delectation, so that when the club reopens, hopefully in January, you can walk into the club and George will have a present for 6 of you. This is seriously good. This is limited edition rare whiskies. You cannot put a price on these. So I want you all to become keyboard warriors. Did you hear that? Keyboard warriors.
Now, are they all different? Or
Yeah, they're all different.
Yeah,
they're all completely different.
Okay, so I haven't seen them, so I will randomly pick.
He doesn't know what they are at the moment, right? I mean, but he'll pick one out and I'll then tell you what it is, and you can collect it from the club in hopefully in January. So without further ado, Cardhu, let's give it a taste. Let's all take a dram, shall we? This particular dram is 11 years old. It's 56%. So I'm going to hush my mouth for around about 10 seconds and try it neat before I add some water to it.
Oh.
So initially, on the nose, I got that lovely heather honey note. Cardhu ages 99% of its whiskies in refill and first fill American oak casks. And the gentleman in the top of the screen with the red jacket and the black top,
Kevin.
I can say...
Yeah, hello, Colin.
Kevin, your facial expressions then were fantastic.
I know. Well, I'm hoping that you didn't do the Pittyvaich first, because you normally say people have to hold it in their mouth for a number of seconds that it's old or something.
Yeah, I don't do that all the time though, Kevin. I like to think that every tasting is different, and I allow the public at this time of year, as it is the season of goodwill, I allow you to make your own decision. But your facial expression, Kevin, fantastic. In fact, when somebody says to me, Kevin, in the future, what's your favorite Cardhu expression? I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Well, I'll mute myself now, but I'm hoping I don't disappoint you for the future ones as well.
You'll only get better, Kevin. So basically, this whiskey is, as I said, Cardhu, 99% of it is aged in refill and first fill American casks. The market for Cardhu is Spain, Italy, Greece, the Mediterranean countries. This whiskey is drunk in those countries with hot climates, normally drunk in a big brandy balloon with an ice cube, a single ice cube in it, almost like amaretto. You know amaretto? That almond flavored, apricot flavored liqueur. In the Mediterranean countries, Cardhu, single ice cube, brandy glass, swirl it around, you get that soft, rich, honeyed sweetness. Now, in the UK, until about 5 years ago, you couldn't get Cardhu unless Malcolm was able to purchase it on the grey market, because it wasn't available. We sold it all to those countries. But with the recession in some of those countries, we found that we could bring in round about 10,000 cases of Cardhu and promote it in the UK. So in some ways, I call this a summer whiskey. I call this the kind of whiskey I have with Parma ham. I have it with fresh fruit, with apples and oranges. It's zesty. And I've just added a few drops of water to mine. So excuse me for a second while I try it with water. You see now, I've got Cardhu with 2 sugars. Gentle, soft, inviting on the palate, with good weight, and some of that coconut sweetness from the barrel has come into play. And while you're just enjoying this, I should add that outside of the Mediterranean countries, Johnny Walker, that well-known blending company, they blend Johnny Walker at the Cardhu distillery, and it is the #1 constituent of the Johnny Walker blends, particularly the black label. So a lot of people don't realize it. So I'll just re-emphasize it right here, right now. Diageo is a blending company that also produces single malts. We are making blends to go around the world. Cragganmore, for example, 95% of Cragganmore goes into blends, primarily in South America. Cardhu, mainly in Spain and Greece. Certain distilleries have become so famous that we've cut back on what goes into blends, like Talisker and Lagavulin. Malcolm will know that Talisker and Lagavulin, until 20 years ago, was drunk by the few and not the many, as Jeremy Corbyn would say. So Cardhu is a great introduction to a Speyside distillery that produces a whiskey that's bourbon influenced. It's probably the nearest distillery that we've got that tastes like bourbon. Everybody happy with the Cardhu?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Give me a yeah.
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 And for those of you who live in London, which is probably all of you, there's a great bar, a whiskey bar in London called Black Rock in East London, near Liverpool Street. I urge you to go in there. They've got a bar there where we, as Diageo, have taken down a tree. We've cut this tree in half and we've shipped it into the bar. And in the bar, we've taken out the inside of the barrel. We've then toasted it and we've filled it with whiskey. So when you go into Black Rock, you can pour yourself a dram straight from the wood, and they put a perspex top on it so you can see the whiskey in the wood. Isn't that cool? Just nod your heads, right?
Very cool.
Some of you have probably been there. And I said to the owner of Black Rock, who incidentally I'm doing a Facebook tasting at 8 o'clock on Friday, why did you call it Black Rock, your bar, your whiskey bar? He goes, because I went to Cardhu and had the most amazing experience and tasted some amazing whiskies, and Cardhu in Gaelic is Black Rock.
Oh.
And that was a orgasmic from Mr. Tim Hain, is that right?
Ah.
There you go. Hang on, Tim Hain, give me a
Ah. Okay. I'll resist from giving you my
Yeah. So Cardhu, Gaelic for Black Rock, primarily American oak. For me, it's the sweetest honey flapjacks, Parma ham as an accompaniment, top class.
And every single Johnny Walker is blended there.
Correct.
I never knew that.
And next year,
It must be huge.
COVID willing, next year, Diageo are spending £3 million on 4 different distilleries to give you, the public, an experience of a lifetime. Clynelish, Cardhu, Kalila, and Glenkinchie are going to be 4 new visitor attractions that we're spending a lot of money on to show you how whiskey has now become a massive attraction for the people who visit Scotland. So that's Cardhu. I hope you enjoyed that as an intro. And I'm going to move on to the second whiskey. And I don't normally have a formula, but I'll pick up.
I'm just going to pick a winner here.
Oh yeah, I've got some. I think George is going to read out some of the tasting notes.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick 2 or 3, and then I'm going to choose one. Mark Green, nice and simple, honey. I mean, he's got a point.
Well done, Mark.
Well done, Mark.
You know, keep at it, you know. You can stretch it to 2 words if you want. Really, you can.
Tim Hain here. Cardhu with a drop of H2O, fruit salad followed with a touch of cafe latte.
Wow. You're never too latte for a latte, Tim.
Johnny Isaacs, on the nose, I get mince pie spices, honey, sticky raisins.
Wow. Nice one. I like that.
I'm going to go for Johnny.
Johnny, can we have a round of applause for Johnny boy?
Oh, thank you, guys.
Which one's Johnny on the screen then?
Johnny is right here. Top
Well
top.
done, mate. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
In front of me, I haven't got a picture of the screen, but in front of me, I've got 8 whiskies that I have filled with rarities. So I'm going to ask,
Great.
George is just making some notes.
Okay.
So George,
Well, we're going to go for
this
the
is for
middle
Johnny.
one. Bloody hell.
I like it when he says that. That means something good's come up.
It's Johnny Walker Red Label from the 1970s.
Jeez, Louis.
The 1970s. This is about 300 pounds a bottle.
Nice.
Wowzers.
I tasted it yesterday after visiting George. I tasted it in Milroy's, where somebody very kindly gave me a drop. And I said, listen, can I take a little drop away to give away as a gift? Because Christmas is the time for goodwill. And Johnny, you are that recipient.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic.
Thanks, guys.
Johnny
Yeah.
on the bottle, so we don't
All
get,
right.
or if not, you made a note.
How do you spell Johnny? George.
So Johnny wins a Johnny.
Done.
Is that right?
I mean, that's absolutely, you couldn't really make that up, could you?
No,
It was meant to be.
it had to be a Johnny, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
That's
you
great.
can see there are some pretty cool prizes.
There's some good prizes here, I'm telling you. You know? Okay, so excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Move on. Kevin, I'm looking for a good expression from you on this one. Tim, I can feel a tune coming on soon. I think we're going to taste Cragganmore. We all okay with Sorry, we'll go to the Singleton of Dufftown, as I mentioned, the Singleton of Dufftown. So that lovely, zesty, honeyed sweetness has now gone, and now we're looking at a whiskey from a distillery that doesn't really get much publicity. It's called Dufftown. If anybody can tell me what village Dufftown is in, you win a brownie point. Anybody tell me?
Dufftown.
Dufftown, exactly. Dufftown is in Dufftown, and that particular town or village is basically known as being where the cradle of whiskey making in Speyside is. You've got Glenfiddich and Balvenie and Mortlach, even Pittyvaich, Cragganmore and Dufftown, all producing whiskey. I think it's the greatest proliferation of distilleries in one place, in one town, you know? I mean, if you grew up there 20, 30, 40, 100 years ago, there's only one job in the town, and that's working at the distillery or one of the distilleries. And back then, and you've got to remember an interesting point before we taste it. In fact, I'm going to put a prize up for this. I'm going to put a prize up, right? When was the first single malt promoted as a single malt commercially? And I'll give you a clue. It comes from Scotland. No, seriously. It comes from Speyside. When was the first single malt promoted as opposed to blends? What year? Anybody want to have a guess in the chat there?
Oh, here we go.
There's a bottle. There's a bottle here.
Tom Cattermore, 86. James Taylor, 53. Martin Schilling, 41. Sam Greenwood, I'm skipping away there, 62. Yanis, 74. Jackie 1920, Rowan 1964, another 64 from Hain. Have any of these hit?
So the nearest, who said 53?
Who said 53? James Taylor.
James Taylor. James. Where's James on the screen?
Hello. How you doing, Colin?
Down there. Excellent. James, I love your music. I bought all your albums.
Thank you. me and Tim are working on a collaboration later on today.
I'll call you JT, all right? James, the first Scottish distillery to promote itself as a single malt was Glenfiddich in 1955. And because they were the first, 1955. And because they were the first commercially worldwide to promote a single malt, Glenfiddich is the #1 selling single malt in the world because it got off the blocks before anyone else. So, James, you get a prize.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yours is picking the lightest one, I bet.
Did you hear what he said then? Did you hear that?
I didn't.
He said something heck.
I didn't. I said, fucking hell, are you kidding me? This is Johnny Walker Red Label
What
from
we got?
the 1950s.
From the 1950s.
I'm well happy with that. Thank you.
I mean, you might not be able to tell from his receding hairline, but that's older than you, isn't it, James?
Just a smidge, yeah.
Just a
Only a
smidge.
little though.
Right. Well, this is the kind of quality that you're being offered tonight, along with obviously some amazing prices of these whiskies that Malcolm has at the Vintage House. So the Singleton of Dufftown, I think before I talk any more, I think we should nose and taste it. So on the nose, there's that liquid fruitcake note. It's rum and raisin, it's dates. You know that it's got that rich, dense fruit note coming through. The last time I had this a couple of weeks ago, and not that I was smoking it myself, but I was at a whiskey and cigar evening, and this with a medium to full draw Cohiba even, worked exceptionally well. And I also had it as a dessert whiskey. God, I can't remember the course now. It'll come to me. But this ventures almost into rum territory, or after dinner. Initially, I used to enjoy a nice rum like a Zacapa after dinner with some dark chocolate. This, with dark chocolate, 70% cocoa content, you can go high with an artisanal chocolatier in London, or you can go traditional with green and black, 70%, works exceptionally well. My favorite chocolatier in London, they've got, I think, 4 shops, is called Rococo, R-O-C-O-C-O. And another really good one who was making whiskey-infused chocolates before anybody else is a guy called William Curley.
Yeah, so we do tastings with him. He's incredible. Did you meet him in Richmond?
I know I did tastings at his shop. I knew he lived in Richmond, but I did at a couple of whiskey festivals. William Curley, you know, his wife is Japanese, so he was doing Yamazaki flavored chocolates. His chocolates they're so far out, they're in, you know, they're absolutely dynamite. And this Singleton of Dufftown, it's not, as I said, as a distillery, Dufftown, it's not that well known. It's part of a trilogy. And please taste this. Let's take a mouthful. This has got such a great, slow, slumbering mouthfeel, and it continues into the finish. You know, if you can give this 5, 6, 7 seconds, Kevin, you're at it again. I've seen you, mate. You can't escape it. You know, you almost have to allow the alcohol in to allow the flavor to come out. You know, strength-wise, this is 55.1. I absolutely love this whiskey. I think it's grossly underpriced for what it is. You don't need too much of this if you give it time in the mouth. It's got weight, it's got texture, it's got dark chocolate spice, and an extra few seconds in the mouth. You know, this finishes better than Ronaldo, really. If any of you got any comments and have got a tasting note, put it in the column.
Yeah, I'm getting quite a few through.
Because these are waiting for some of you lucky people. I think being able to taste the Singleton next to the Cardhu, you're talking same region, different style. I could drink that Singleton all night long. I think that's absolutely wicked. I'm not just, seriously, I'm a whiskey fan first and a part-time Diageo employee second. That is, at the moment, in December, that's the whiskey that I may or may not share with my my daughter, depending on what the movements are like over the next few weeks. That's wicked.
Nigel Lee saying perfect marriage of honey and heather, earthy.
Yeah, bit of earth there.
Mark Green has moved up on his first tasting note and he's gone to honey and beeswax silky smooth. You do get better with drink.
Get on, Mark. You're on a roll, mate. You're on a roll. The Ernest Hemingway of the Soho Whisky Club, right there.
Yanis thinks raisins and chocolates on the nose.
Bam. Yanis, you're on my wavelength, mate.
Winner. There we go.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Well done, Yanis.
So this is for Yanis. And George, by the way, has no idea what these are.
What's Johnny Walker oldest?
Okay, so this one, George has just said to me, and this is brilliant, because George calls himself a manager at a whiskey bar, right? And I've got him. He doesn't know what it is. So Johnny Walker, Blue Label, Malcolm would know this, because he's older than me. The first ever Johnny Walker Blue Label came out in 1991. And it was called Johnny Walker Oldest.
Wow.
And it contained whiskies up to 60 years of age.
Wow.
60. And
Thank you very much, sir.
and I'm just saying, of course, within a year, they'd all sold out. And none of those whiskies, like Blue Label now, the oldest whiskey in Blue Label now is around about 30. So I'm not saying age is everything. I mean, look at me, you know, I'm 68. I was much better when I was 23. But this, what you were going to get, Yanis, is Johnny Walker Oldest from 1991, 29 years ago.
But also, that was when whiskey was not as popular as it is now. So you're going to have some serious distilleries in there.
That means...
You'll have Brora, Port Ellen, and...
And not only that, Yanis, it's also got bottle age. You know, it's got bottle age. It's got 29 years bottle age, right? Just think about it. 1991. Just think about it. Some of the whiskies were 60 years old. Do your maths. Do your maths.
So what does bottle age do to a whiskey?
George has asked a really good question. What does bottle age do to a whiskey? And I'm going to answer that when we pick up whiskey number 3. And we're going to pick up Cragganmore. Effectively, these first 3 whiskies are all from Speyside. So George will remind me on that subject in a moment. Cragganmore is one of my favourite distilleries. I I used to work for Suntory, the Japanese distillers, and I worked with Yamazaki and Hakushu and Hibiki, and I fell in love with the aromas of Japanese whiskey. Can some of you nod if you've ever tried Hibiki? Yeah? So when I first started with the Japanese and I nosed Hibiki, the note that I got off the nose was sandalwood. And at the time, I probably sound a bit pretentious here. At the time, I was wearing as aftershave, an aftershave called Yoji Yamamoto. And the reason I bought it was because of that sandalwood note. Now in Japan, they don't have American oak or European oak. There's no Quercus alba or Quercus robur. There's Mizunara, Japanese oak. It's not very good. Why? Because it contains lots of knots. So there's lots of leakages. Out of 10 barrels of Mizunara, only 3 hold the whiskey. But Mizunara gives whiskey, Japanese whiskey, perfume. It gives it that sandalwood note. And this is why it's so expensive. You might see on the internet, Bowmore in a Mizunara cask, £300. Chivas Regal in a Mizunara cask, £400. You're paying for the wood because Japanese wood gives this perfumed bouquet akin to sandalwood. So when I came to Diageo, or as I call it sometimes, Diego, when I nosed Cragganmore, I thought I'd gone back to Japan. So depending on where you are, and I know for me at this moment, maybe it's because I've eaten in this vicinity, I'm not getting as much of sandalwood that I normally get. But I'm telling you, of all the distilleries, of all the 28 distilleries we have at Diageo, this one, for me, has the best aroma, silky mouthfeel, and tingling, effervescent, spirity finish. So should we give it a try? This is 130 pounds and is at 55.8. Let's take a mouthful.
So whilst you guys are all enjoying these, I'll mention again, they're all online. You can jump onto your members platform on the website, just how you bought the tasting kits, and buy these all at the prices in front of you.
So every time I drink Cragganmore, I want more of that aroma. So every Cragganmore I have, I add water. And I'm not sure if anybody out there, I'm sure some of you have tasted Cragganmore in the past. In my own personal top 10, about number 8 or number 7 is Cragganmore Port Wood Finish. I don't know where any of you have had it. It's part of the Distillers Editions range. And when I host whiskey dinners, the only whiskey that I serve up with red meat, like a good steak or a beef Wellington, I add, like a sauce, I add Cragganmore Port Wood Finish, because all those lovely savory notes that you get from port, and the barrels we use are from Fonseca, one of the great port houses. It works like a sauce. So I'm a big fan of Cragganmore 12-year-old. Last year, I'm not sure whether Malcolm has any left. Last year, we had a Cragganmore that had been peated for 3 months in 2008. We couldn't make whiskey at Talisker, and we needed to make whiskey to go into Johnny Walker. So we used the stills and we used the peated barley that was at Talisker, and we used it at Cragganmore, and we brought out last year a Cragganmore peated, absolutely knockout, aromatic bouquet, air freshener. I remember one time I had Cragganmore 12-year-old in a aromatizer, and I had it in my flat as an air freshener. And people would come around and go, Colin, that's a nice air freshener. What is it? And I went, Cragganmore, baby. So big fan. I've added water. With water, liquid silk. Adding water is always a personal thing. For me, I like to take it, I've just taken that down to about 46%. And George mentioned about bottle age. I never really believed in bottle age in whiskey. I know you get it in wine, and I wasn't really sure. But a few years ago, I did a Lagavulin tasting, and we tasted Lagavulin 12-year-old from the special releases. And then we tasted Lagavulin 12-year-old for the Italian market in the 1970s. Two totally different spirits. And the word that comes to mind is, let's see if any of you can guess. It's 6 letters beginning with R. And it's a flavor profile. And it's what old bottled whiskies have. We call it the OBA, the old bottle effect.
Can anyone get it? Stick it in the chat. Stick it in the chat.
Anybody got to go? You find it in wine as well.
No?
I'll give you a second
Raisin. Rancio, Tim Hain. Well done. Well
Tim
done.
Hain, Timmy boy. Timmy boy.
Well done, Tim.
Rancio. It's almost like stale mushrooms, which doesn't sound attractive, but rancio. It's earthy, it's mushroomy, and that's what bottle effect does to whiskey. Did you enjoy the Cragganmore? Yeah?
Yes.
So
That's stunning.
feel free, you keyboard warriors.
Yeah, we've got some great ones coming in already. Rowan, toasted nut with a floral twist.
Like it?
Like that. Sam Greenwood, cinnamon, new wood, and citrus fruit.
Hey, Sammy boy, you should be on Sunday brunch.
But where was it? I found a great one. Come on, where are you? Here we go. Great note here. Colin had you down for an Old Spice kind of guy. I think that's when you're talking about your aftershave.
Hey, who said that? Who said that? Old Spice. Yeah, I like that.
What are we going for? Explosion of resin, pepper, and linen from Jackie.
Wow, Jackie.
And Tom Catamore, light lubrication oil.
Tom, steady now.
Steady. What do we think? Jackie's got a great one there, hasn't she?
Yeah. What did Jim Murray say?
I think it was a mix.
It's over to you. Your choice.
I think it was a mix of Toms and Kevins, to be honest. What Jim Murray would have said.
What did Catherine say?
Let's go.
Your
with
choice.
Jackie, explosion of resin, pepper, and linen.
Jackie, put your hand up. Congratulations. You're a winner. And your lucky whiskey to be collected at the Soho Whisky Club is...
The pressure on me today. Johnny Walker Black Label, 1960s. These are all just incredible.
You've got Johnny Walker Black Label from the 1960s.
Wow. Well done, Jackie. Congratulations.
It's about £300 a bottle.
Wow.
There's a lot of... Well done, well done. There's a fair bit of Lagavulin in that one. But again, it's liquid history. I think you can all see there's a theme going on here. They're all Johnny Walkers, but they're being put to good use. These are all liquid history whiskies, historical whiskies that if you want to buy them now, it's going to cost you an awful lot of money. So just before we move on, I just want to do, it's what I call having a break. Do any of you need to go to the toilet or anything, or are you all okay? All right? Okay, so I just want to mention every Saturday night, well, it used to be Sunday nights, but now it's Saturday. Every Saturday night, I tune in, turn on, and drop out to the sounds of Tim Hain, live from his studio every Saturday night. He does a set of rhythm and blues, and at the same time, he features various whiskies like Talisker and Laga-vul-in, and it's a lovely way to spend the Saturday evening with Tim Hain. I know he's appeared at the club on quite a few occasions, and he's thrilled us with his stories, his music, and his love for music and whiskey. So if any of you are bored this Saturday, Tim normally comes on around about 8 o'clock. He does about 60 minutes. You can get it on catch up on Facebook, and it's well worth checking out. His whiskey reviews are pretty shit, but his music is fantastic. So moving on, are we all ready to move on? Are we all ready to move on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are we all good? Are you enjoying yourselves?
Fantastic.
Lots
Great
of fun stuff.
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Kevin, I want you to work on that expression now, okay?
Have you seen where this guy is?
Which guy?
How do I pin to video? There you go. Have a look at where this guy is.
Wow.
Sam's at the Soho Whisky Club tonight, guys. Sam, we're meant to be shut, mate. Not even I'm there.
Don't bother me, does it?
No, clearly not.
Fantastic.
Broken in, hasn't he?
Excellent. Look at that. Wicked. Wicked. Okay, so I'm going to hold back from the Pittyvaich for the moment, and we're going to go to Talisker. Now, I'm pretty sure that all of you have drunk Talisker before. If not, I'm not going to assume that, but what I can tell you is that I visited Talisker for the first time in 1989, 31 years ago, when it was being released for the first time commercially as a single malt, as part of the classic malts range. And just have a nose, by the way, while I'm talking, and just compare it with the Cragganmore or the Singleton of Dufftown, or even the Cardhu. Just compare it. This is so rummy, it's yummy. Right, and I went to Talisker, and I met the distillery manager there, a guy called Mike Copland. And I said, Mike, what gives Talisker that unique taste? Because I don't think it's smoky. Smoky is south, Isla, you know, Lagavulin, oily peat, Ardbeg, sweet peat, Lefroy, dirty peat. Talisker, chili pepper. It's a different kind of peat on that island. What is it that makes it different? Is it the peat, or is it something in the distillation? Because if you've ever been to Talisker, you'll see that as the evaporation comes off the still, the plumber there, and you can get this online on Google, he's put in an upside down U-bend so that the evaporation, before it goes back into liquid in the worm tub or condenser, it collects the spirit, the evaporation, and it takes it via a purifier back into the still to be redistilled. Talisker is 2.5 times distilled. And that extra evaporation that goes back in the reflux, that goes back into the still, means it picks up more of that copper contact So finally, when it goes up and under the U-bend and it goes into the worm tub, which is a condenser, a big vat filled with cold water. It's a bit like if you've got a kettle and the evaporation comes out of the spout, it hits the window, which is cold, and it comes back into a liquid form. So we call these worm tubs. They used to be called serpents. You know, have a look online. It's quite interesting. And these days, and it's a bit technical, but I do want to touch on it. Distilleries have a choice. They have either a shell and tube condenser or a worm tub. Now, a shell and tube condenser, and I'll keep it as light as possible, means that the whiskey will contain a lot of copper contact, whereas a worm tub is minimal copper contact, but picks up some sulfury notes. And sulfur in a whiskey is considered by blenders to be a good thing. Not sulfur in a cask, that's something different. That's like rotten eggs. But sulfur coming out of a worm tub with fresh whiskey, that sulfur in Talisker changes into chili pepper. It gives extra weight to the whiskey and gives it that peppery note. So I hope that's a little insight into the fact that they are, all the distilleries are using the same process, a bit like wine, but they are all tasting different. Islay, for an example, I've got a great book on whiskey called Peat, Smoke and Spirit by Andrew Jefford. It's probably my #1 whiskey book. And it's got a great page there of the distillation times of every distillery on Islay. Guess what? They're all different. Lefroy distills for 8 hours. Kilchoman distills for 6 hours. Lagavulin distills for 11 hours. Kalila is 9 hours. So you can imagine if you take that distillation process back to its roots, that's like saying, right, I want all of you to, I'm going to give you a ribeye steak. I want you all to cook it. We're all going to cook it differently. And this is why the beauty of whiskey is that each distillery has its own individuality. So Talisker can be summed up in 4 words: red, hot, chili, pepper. But now, let's take Talisker to a new level. Let's put it into a rum cask from Jamaica. Let's see what happens. So on the nose, give me a nod if any of you are getting a pot still rum nose. If you get into rum, as I do, outside of whiskey, blind, if I was served that blind, I would say it was a rum. Now, that doesn't necessarily continue on the palate, but on the nose, that Jamaican rum cask has changed. In fact, I'm sure down the line, if I was doing a Talisker tasting right now, and we took Talisker 10 or 18 or whatever, and compared it, you would go, well, that's whiskey, that's rum. So it's not Talisker trying to be a rum, but it's saying, look at me. I can dress up in different clothes and I'm still going to be me, but I'm going to give you a different business card. It's going to leave its business card on your tongue, but it's not the normal business card that you get with Talisker mainstream. Does that make sense?
There's something incredibly interesting going on here in the chat, Colin. A lot of people, and I know that by memory you have a great story about this, have mentioned that it's a little bit of tequila mezcal to them.
Yeah, well, somebody out there knows that when I first started with Diageo in 2008, I had a bottle of Talisker New Make, and I tasted it, and it reminded me of a tequila called Don Julio, and it reminded me of Tequila Blanco, raw spirit, tequila raw spirit, unaged, with that thunderclap of a finish. And I was at a festival in London, and there was a blind tasting competition with tequila and mezcal. And there were 20 judges, and I took a bottle down of Talisker new made with no label, just like that bottle there. And I just said, here we go. Here's one from Diageo. I want to dance with my sister, no? So here's try this. Anyway, I'll put it into a blind tasting, right? Of 20, I think it was 25 different tequilas and mezcals. It came third. Talisker new made. And I asked a couple of the judges who were quite well renowned, and they said, "Oh man, I'd love to make a margarita with this." A margarita, right? And it shows that Talisker has got a unique flavor. If you buy into it, fantastic. Out of all the distilleries in Diageo, I probably have more fun with Talisker because every expression is different and it goes great with food pairings. You know, I like serving it over oysters. Man, I could give you a whole list of serves that I do with Talisker, but it also works in cocktails. For any of you out there, I enjoy drinking a cocktail called a Negroni, right? Which is normally gin, Campari, and vermouth in equal part measures, 30 mil, 30 mil, 30 mil. So I've kicked out the gin and I've put in Talisker for the winter, and it works really well. But as a food pairing, second to none. So let's give it a taste. I warn you, though, that it comes in at 57.9.
Really?
57.9.
Really? No water.
It's delicious.
Man, that's a hip flask whiskey right there. So just think of that Dufftown. Just pick up the Dufftown and the nose on the Dufftown now. Unbelievable. Bring me out a William Curly chocolate right there. That's wicked. Cragganmore, spray it all over. And with Cardhu, you know what I do with this? I take a mouthful of some shortcake, right? And mix it with this. So you've got a crumble in the mouth. But Talisker, at that strength, as an experiment, and to be honest, I like the fact they've not overcharged on it price-wise. That will become a collectible. There's a lot of Talisker fans out there. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's a really good expression of Talisker, where the nose is giving you a kind of Caribbean note, but the taste is unmistakably Talisker with that chili pepper kick.
Yeah, really good value, as you said, 90 quid. That's
good,
going to
man.
fly. We've only got a couple of cases as well, guys. So
That's a winner.
online. Right, in terms of our bottle winner, I am getting bribed. So Kevin says that George is a great guy. Malcolm's lucky to have him as the club manager, and that he'll give me a sip of the whiskey. Marcin has raised it to 2 bottles of Doots. Any raises, guys, out there? I think James Risk was the first person looking down here to mention the tequila mezcal notes on the Talisker.
That's a good show.
So I think that's.
I know Tim Hain said Talisker and chocolate's his favourite combination. It tickles his fancy on every occasion.
Behave yourself.
No, Colin, you said that.
Oh, was it me?
You said that, and I put it in a song, and then we sang it together a few times.
So we got. We can either go for somebody bribing me, which I'm happy with, Or we can go for James Risk, who was the first person to mention
Yeah,
that.
let's go for James.
Yeah, James is.
Yeah, you can't win two of these. He's not won before, is he?
No, he hasn't. Different
Right,
James.
okay. James, congratulations. You are a winner. And Kevin, can I say, I missed your expression on that one, Kevin, but I trust you gave it justice.
Oh, no doubt. Right. Okay. The pressure. Well, this is no label too, is it?
My God, this is mystery. This is mystery whiskey. In fact, you have chosen, this is when the sirens go off, right? Woo, 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 woo. This is the mystery prize. This is the whiskey with no name. James, where's James on the screen?
There he is.
James, what I suggest, James, with this one is that you tell me in the new year when you are going to the Whisky Club to receive this, let George know. I will come down and join you and tell you the story. So it'll keep you in suspense as
Okay.
opposed to letting everyone know. Is that okay with you?
It sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Happy days.
He drew the mystery down.
label.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Something to look forward to, James.
Wow.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
That one, I think now we're all intrigued. Okay.
Okay, we've got two to go. I think we're all on time as well. We doing all right for time?
Yeah, we're doing
Everybody happy?
brilliantly. Everyone's happy?
Okay, so basically what's going to happen now is
I mean, look at that smile. That
Look
man
at
there
that.
is very
He's
strong.
up
Look at the
he's
blushing.
there. He's there.
James.
He's there. So what we're going to do now is me and George are going to say goodbye to you. We're going to watch an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm and we'll be back with you in about 40 minutes. All right? Thank you very much. Okay, number 5. This one, it's, have any of you out there, before I talk about it, have any of you out there heard of a band called the Sex Pistols? Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
They were big in the 70s. They had hits like God Save the Queen, Anarchy in the UK, and they had a lead singer. Can anybody name the lead singer?
Vacant.
Say that again. Say that again, Jenny, I think it was.
I was just
Johnny-
thinking of
Johnny
another song that
Rotten.
people might know. It's pretty vague.
That's right. Jenny, you're right on it. So Johnny Rotten's favourite whiskey is this particular distillery. And he wrote a song about this whiskey.
Sorry.
And he sang it, and it goes along the lines of, Tim Hain knows it, we're so pity, oh so pity vague, right? And it was a #1 hit. So thanks to Johnny Rotten, Pittyvaich.
It's rotten luck the distillery's shut, isn't it? Shocking.
Pittyvaich. So
Poor lad.
this is truly liquid history. And we're going back to around about 1973 when James Taylor was writing some great music. And was that right? James Taylor, that was his time, wasn't it? Do you remember?
That was about James Taylor's time.
And the demand for blended whiskey was at an all-time high, right? And you have to remember back then in the 70s, 98% of the whiskies that were being drunk, Scotch whiskies, were blends. And J&B in particular was massive. It was #2 to Johnny Walker. You know, Johnny Walker was shifting 19 million 12-bottle cases. Just get your head around that, you know, forget your Bimber barrel, right? 19 million 12-bottle cases. And it's all from those 28 distilleries, which is why I said we're a blending company, right? Blends still is 92% of the market. So the call went out in Scotland. We need another distillery. J&B sales are going through the roof. So they built Pittyvaich in Speyside, in Dufftown. And all of the whiskey that was made at Pittyvaich went into blends. It was never released as a single malt. But at Diageo, we've got a team of master blenders, and one of them is a woman called Maureen Robinson, who I dearly love for her expertise in choosing casks. And she identified around about 50 or 60 casks of Pittyvaich and said to Diageo, look, these casks don't deserve to go into a blend. They should be kept to one side for the future. And because her ask was so small, they allowed her to pull out around about 50 or 60 barrels and allow it to age at the distillery. And after, when the distillery closed down I think it was around about 1995, those barrels were moved to Royal Lochnagar to continue aging. Never released as a single malt. So now we're lucky that we've had 4 different expressions of Pittyvaich. This is the 5th. There might be one more, then that's it. And I hosted a tasting last week with a certain group of people, and we had a master of wine on the panel, and she chose this as her number 1. But we've all got different palates. And Pittyvaich, to some people, it's a bit like Lafroig. You kind of love it or don't quite understand it. It's got its individuality. It's refill, first fill, second fill casks. You got to remember what I said initially. It was going to go into blends, but through one person's knowledge and acumen, barrels were kept aside, and finally, what's the strength?
50.8.
Yeah, 50.8. This will be auction fodder in about a year's time. With the demand for old whiskies, particularly from closed distilleries. If you like these styles, these kind of whiskies, buy them up. Buy them up. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that. You know, George and I, we both, if we find a whiskey that we really like, we'll buy it up because we know there's a good chance the price is going to double. The whiskey market has gone mental. All of the wine collectors are moving into whiskey. I see nothing but higher prices in the new year. And that's not a selling pitch. It's a reality. You know, that bimber that you've got now is going to be worth 5 times in a year. Trust me. Why? Because there's only 187 bottles, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
187 bottles. Well, guess what? There's 500 bimber collectors in the world. Hang on. With my Cornish brain, 500 into 187 ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. So, Pittyvaich, liquid history, collectible, refill casks. I'm going to leave this one for you because there are, you know, some of the best ones are still here. I'm looking to see what the Soho Whisky Club whiskey aficionados have to say about this. I think it needs at least 15 seconds in the mouth. It's a slow burner. I love going back. Do you know what? The biggest joy I get is going back. Tim, have you had this one before?
Just amazing.
No, sir.
Is this your first time, yeah?
Yeah. I've had Johnny Rotten, and particularly loved his version of My Way. But not had this whiskey. Not had this whiskey.
I know. Just for all of you out there, Tim is one of my favourite people. When we used to do whiskey festivals, Tim would offer his services, and we'd drive around the country going to whiskey clubs and whiskey festivals. And he enjoyed it as a break from his music. And I enjoyed it, the fact that I had somebody who was equally as enthusiastic as myself. And on top of that, he plays a mean guitar and writes some great songs. And in the new year, I'm sure that Malcolm and George we'll be welcoming him back to the club. And I've said, really, what he should do is release an album. Do you remember that word, album? He should release a CD.
CD, yeah. A CD.
A Colin Dunn, a CD, live at Soho Whisky Club. Man, that's got to be done.
It's got to be done.
A live album, you know.
Mm.
Anyway, we're so pity, oh so pity, bacon. Limited bottling, less than, I think there's about 2,500 bottles for the world. For the world.
It's delicious.
And I have to say, it's one of those that you might want to go back to. It's a grower, it's a slow grower. That's refill first and second fill.
Refill first and second.
Incredible.
Gab Boronat, golden syrup and vanilla ice cream.
Where is he? Where is he?
Where are you, Gab? Put your hands up, mate.
Gab, you're on it, mate. You're on
There
it.
he is. He's down at the bottom here.
You're on it. You should be on the food and drink program.
There we go. Just running through them. I like that the best. So there we go. Well done, Gab.
Gab, you win. You win. Okay, so.
But what do you win?
But what do you win, Gab? That's what we want to know. What is the gift for the Gab?
Pressure for me.
Gift for Gab.
No pressure, George.
Blue Label Casks edition.
Okay. Now you've heard of Blue Label, right?
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is straight from the cask at 50, I think it's 57%. Only available in duty free. Now sold out. That, Gabby, is your prize.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you very much.
How cool
Well
is
done,
that?
Gab.
It's amazing.
You wanna do a song?
Tim's going to do a song. Shall we have it between this and the
Yeah, I
Lagavulin
think we
12?
should.
I think
We got
that's
one,
good
we
intro.
got one more whiskey. We got a Lagavulin to come. But I think just before we move on, if you can all spare the time, my good friend and your good friend, Tim Hain, we're going to ask him to play us a little number that's whiskey infused rhythm and blues.
All right. Well, this is going to be interesting, folks, because I rediscovered this song after it had lain hidden for a couple of years the other day. It's got a lot of words. I hope I can remember them all. Plus, just to kind of completely throw me off, that Talisker with its Jamaican element means that I'm now going to have to fool myself into giving this song a bit of a reggae feel. Why I say? We I say? Shall we give it a reggae groove? So this is a song dedicated to the special releases, and it's dedicated to the fact that a lot of the names of the whiskies are very hard to pronounce, and particularly the Americans have a way of desecrating the name of my favorite whiskey, or one of my very favorite whiskeys, and so that's what this song is about. So if you'll bear with me, it goes something like this. Right.
Take it away, Tim.
Well, every year about this time, we who love our whiskeys, we get all excited about Diageo special releases. It's just like Santa Claus is coming to town. Only trouble is they're so hard to pronounce. Yeah. 1, 2, second verse. I'm having trouble with my T and inich. Yes, and my cleanelish. And I thank God Diageo don't own Brewich Ladich. When I ask for a drinky of Glen Kinky, them look at me strange and say, don't you mean Johnny Walker Pinky? Now, you know, Pinky is a character that Colin and I both know, and he looks after a warehouse up in the Hebrides. He's a legend in the whiskey world. I don't believe he's ever left Isla. And that's why we come to the chorus, and it goes like this. Just pour me a Lagavulin. Don't you know it's my favorite drink? 'Cause I'm an American, that's how we pronounce it in my lane. But I would be a happy man with a K.O. Isla in my hand. But give me what I want, what I really, really want. You know what I want. A glass of Lagavulin. Right. Well, I know that pronouncing these names can get very grisly. Just let me tell you about a young Australian guy who tried to sell me a malt from Islay. Anybody know where Islay is? Ah, well, we'll get there one day. So give me a Lafroy, ale a day, and a Dahlia Wayne, while I try to get my tongue around this Bunahab Hain. That's my name. Oh, forget all that. Goddamn, just give me a Lagavulin. Don't you know it's my favorite drink? Don't you know I'm its biggest fan? Oh yeah, and I'm a man, but I would be happier than a clam with a Kyolila in my hand. But you know what I want? Give me what I really want, what I really, 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 really want. That's a Lagavulin, yeah. Give me a Lagavulin. I love a Lagavulin, 'cause I'm an American man. So thank you very much for listening to my little song and my tongue twisting of all these wonderful whiskeys that Colin has brought tonight with George for you and me, sitting here on my screen. Yeah, it's beautiful, you know what I mean. Putting my nose in that glass. Oh my God. They're so beautiful, these special releases. So once again, are you ready for the Lagavulin?
Timmy boy, Timmy boy.
Thank you, folks.
Tim, can I just say
Yeah.
that the cherry on the cake, I have two winning samples here. One is going to be for the last round. The other one is going to be for you.
Oh, bless.
George is now going to make a, he doesn't know what, he hasn't known what any of them are.
Well,
So,
if he don't know, I don't know.
George has chosen.
Yes, Tim.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
You got Ghost and Rare Glenurry Royal.
Glenurry Royal, Tim.
Yes.
Glenurry Royal.
Yeah, closed distillery.
Good heavens.
Bottle of Glenurry Royal set you back about 3,000.
Wow.
Do you know, Colin, 10 years ago, I think it was, we had a whiskey lounge. Remember them?
Yes.
At the Hilton Hotel somewhere near London Bridge.
Yes.
And you were walking around with a bottle of 29, I think it was 29 or 39-year-old Glenurry Royal, and you gave me a dram.
Yes.
All that time ago. So this is a magical step back in time. Thank you. Thank you.
And just before we move on to the last whiskey, I remember that event because Tim was there with his harmonica player.
That's right, Alan Glenn.
Alan Glenn, and I spent a few minutes with him tasting whiskey, and Alan became a huge whiskey fan. I'm not saying it was down to me, but part of what I do is to try to get people to get into whiskey, you know. And to see Alan Glenn, who's actually performed a few times at the Soho Whisky Club with Tim and plays amazing harmonica. I mean, trust me, I'm a big blues fan. You know, Slim Harpo, you know, 9 Below Zero.
He was in 9 Below Zero. He was part of 9 Below Zero.
I know. An absolutely wonderful, wonderful human being who plays great music. So I want everyone to raise their hands and give a round of applause to Tim Hain for that wonderful song.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think it's only appropriate that the last whiskey that we're tasting is Lagavulin, Lagavulin, Lagavulin. Ain't no fooling with the Lagavulin.
Lagavulin.
Do the lager. Forget Lady Gaga. This is Lady Lager. So it's got a very unique taste. I give it the 3 Ps: powerful, pungent, and peaty. It's an outdoor drink. 80% of Lagavulin is drunk between October and February. It's particularly popular on December the 16th, round about 8:30 in a London town. So the way to look on it, just take a nose. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have ever been to Isla, or more to the point, to Lagavulin. I've been so lucky, I've been there about 30 times. And every time I smell Lagavulin, it takes me back to the still house. You know, there's a big debate in whiskey at the moment, all around one word called, which is big, very prevalent in wine, called terroir, that the wine or the whiskey is symptomatic, it's of the place. And if ever a whiskey has got that, i.e. the minute you pick it up, you go, that's Lagavulin. Talisker has that chili pepper kick as well. It's very distinctive. Of all the island distilleries, they distill Lagavulin for 11 hours. Slow cooking, slow distillation, maximum flavor. It's not better or worse than Ardbeg or Lafroig. It's got its own cooking time, and it creates a whiskey that's got its unique flavor. There's a distiller's edition version, which has been added or changed or moved into Pedro Jimenez, which is a luscious, sweet grape. They used to call it Lagavulin Aced, A-C-E-D, accentuated cask enhancement. 3 months in Pedro Jimenez makes Lagavulin taste like smoky black treacle, thick and rich. You need a knife and a fork to drink it. And it's quite interesting, digressing for 1 second. Lovers of Pedro Jimenez. Pedro Jimenez is doing exceptionally well with new distilleries like Bimber, like Daff Mill. And in fact, it's so versatile as a secondary finishing experience that I've mentioned Lagavulin, which is powerful, pungent and peaty. My first ever Pedro Jimenez influenced whiskey was Auchentoshan 3-wood.
Go on.
Auchentoshan is the lightest triple distilled whiskey coming out of Scotland. But 2 weeks in Pedro Jimenez, it's Auchentoshan with a leather coat. So Lagavulin plays really well with secondary finishing. Here, this is 100% refill American oak. It's a lot sweeter than you would normally expect with Lagavulin. And we're talking 56.4. So everything that you'd expect from this is what I call Lagavulin acoustic. Hospitals, bandages, TCP, iodine, brine, seaweed, bog myrtle, oil, tar, burnt rope, antiseptic. It's all in there. I've never met antiseptic. I've met my uncle, but not my auntie. But I've got to tell you, at Christmas, Lagavulin with blue cheese is an absolute winner. And if you get a choice, mine, I've moved away from the traditional. Mine is an Irish blue cheese called Cashel Blue. which I get from Neil's Yard. It's a creamy blue cheese from Ireland, but this is the choice. So without further ado, please raise your glasses for the last time to Laga-vul-in, whiskey, George for organising, Malcolm for running one of the best clubs in the UK, and to all of you for putting up with this strange time that we're living in. I raise my glass to all of you for joining us this evening. Slàinte.
Okay, so we're going to choose the final one. Oh, like I always, I mean, Lagavulin is just my go-to finisher. Yeah, that's gas.
This is the last one.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly pick out a few of these. Okay, so sorry. Okay, Martin Schilling says.
Martin! Well, he has to, doesn't he? It's sherry. We're talking sherry,
Oh,
right?
of course.
It has to be Martin. It can't be anybody else.
Oh, well, what? Is it, you said he's waffling. Haven't even heard it. Lagavulinosaurus smoky. Is that what he says?
Woo! You've been drinking, Martin.
Yeah, he's always been drinking. He was drinking at midday. Sam Greenwood, campfire smoke, peppers, then easing itself out into a salted caramel finish.
Wow.
Very nice. Or John says, smoky, sweet barbecue, background of toffee, superb.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that last one.
You want that last one?
Yeah, I think so. Is
Okay.
that who said that?
John Parrish.
John, where
John
are you?
Brown.
Where's John? Oh, there he is. There.
There
Well
he
done,
is.
John. I mean, they're all extremely good. Please don't be offended if I didn't choose you, apart from you, Martin.
Yeah, apart from you, Martin, you should be.
Thank you.
But seriously, Tom, you for all of you who've made an effort, whether you managed to win one or not, but what I will say is in the new year, when things change, and I'm in the Soho Whisky Club, if I bump into any of you, I will treat you to a dram of my choice to share, and you can pay for it.
I love that. That was fantastic.
Okay, right. Wow. So those are, I mean,
they're the prizes.
I don't think we're going to have enough whiskey to be able to bottle for the next tasting after everybody hears about this. What a bunch of treats.
Have you told them what he's won?
No, I haven't.
Got the right one.
No. Fuck, now I've got to find it. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay, so John Parrish, you have one.
Liquid history.
Pure Malt 15, Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker, pure malt 15-year-old. The first ever release 20 years ago, which is Cragganmore, Kalila, Talisker, and
Cardhu.
one other, which I can't remember.
Fantastic. Thank you.
That's yours, man. Collect, seriously. All of the whiskies tonight are a little bit special. Why? Because you're all a little bit special. It's that simple. Can I just say, Kevin, keep working on the expressions, right? You've definitely got a future there, you know. And for all of you, I'm looking at a screen on a small laptop, around about 6 feet away, so I can't really make out too many of you. Tim Hain looks as if he's sitting there on an Egyptian temple. All that's missing is the 2 dogs of Anubis on either side, really. Tim, thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you.
Malcolm, can I just say thank you for
Colin,
working?
can I just say thank you very much. You did our first tasting, 9 years ago? And this is the last tasting of our 75th anniversary for the shop. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You know what, Malcolm? I thought you were about to say you did the first tasting, and this will be
5 years ago.
Yeah,
Well,
wonderful. Wonderful.
ladies and gentlemen, I have to say it is a very unique experience for me, sat down here with all of you on a computer screen and just me with Colin sat next to a Christmas tree. It's a very unique situation to be in. It's probably one of the coolest experiences in my life, I have to say. What an amazing tasting. First of all, the whiskies are brilliant, but you can get great whiskies, and if they're put across by somebody who doesn't have that incredible passion and professionalism, but also great fun and character, then it doesn't mean anything. It has been a brilliant tasting. Colin, thank you so very much. Thank you also so much for bringing such amazing prizes. I promise you will get them. I promise. I mean, it's going to be a big Christmas, but not that big. You will get your prizes. Tim, I want to thank you very much. What an incredible interlude. What a great and fantastic supporter you've been of the club over the last few years. And we cannot wait to get you back in there live performing.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Malcolm, thank you very much. I know it's been a difficult year for us all, mate, but I appreciate the fact that you have allowed all this to go on and continue. So thank you very much. Tim, thank you. Malcolm, thank you. All of you, thank you. But the biggest thank you needs to go to this man here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Colin Dunn.
Have a great Christmas.
Thank you.
Christmas.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Very
Merry
good.
Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Fantastic evening. Thank you.
Love the hat, by the way. Love the hat.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Love you all. Take care. All the very best.
See you soon. Thank you.
We're going to turn off. If anybody wants to stay on.